Europe is dying out.
For years, two things have been true. The world's population is increasing and its birth rate is falling.
A new study by the French Institute for Demographic Studies shows the desire to have children has fallen sharply in the past 20 years.
Europe's getting older, birth rates are collapsing, populations are shrinking, and entire countries are heading toward demographic decline.
Birth rates in Spain and across southern Europe are dropping.
The truth is, I want to have children. I want to have children, but I can't. I would love to have had my children before. I'm 35 now and would love to have children already, but I simply can't afford it.
This crisis has massive implications for the entire continent. But first, there's a question. How did this happen, and what does it mean for Europe's future? Europe is facing a demographic perfect storm. 3 interconnected crises happening simultaneously. First, the demographic distribution is aging very fast. Secondly, the rate of births has fallen to critically low levels which are not sustainable. Lastly, the working population is declining annually. In order to explain why this is important, you have to understand the concept of replacement rate. The rate is 2.1 children per woman, which is required to keep the population stable without immigration. Why 2.1, you ask? Well, to replace the 2 parents and a little left over to replace people who never reproduce and people who die prematurely. The births per woman rate is currently just 1.38. That is a huge gap. Every generation, Europe is losing more people than it's gaining. Moreover, unlike an economy, which will bounce back after a recession, a demographic decline won't.
The children of Europe are on the front line of the economic crisis, according to a report from UNICEF. Since 2008, 2.6 million children have fallen into poverty in the wealthiest OECD and EU member states.
Raising children has become expense prohibitive. The prices of homes within the largest cities of Europe have reached such high levels that it's impossible for newlyweds to afford a house to accommodate their family. Taking care of children has also reached costs comparable to mortgage payments. In the top German cities, the total expenses associated with living, housing, and childcare consume 60 to 70% of newlyweds' income. When individuals take a moment to crunch the numbers, it's not hard to recognize the immense lifestyle adjustment associated with having and raising a single child, and it's not worth it. Also, there's a cultural side to it. We're also witnessing what demographers have dubbed the delayed adulthood trend. Men and women in their 20s and 30s are opting to raise their family to start and complete their education before having children. The average age of first births has increased dramatically, and it's now 31, the oldest average first-time mother among developed countries. The average age of marriage is also rising across the continent. The opportunity cost is immense. If women have children, it's to forego their career, and that is when it's most important to establish it. The family structure has changed dramatically due to urbanization. Living in the city is costly, and the condominiums are small. The family support structure, which is so essential, has fallen apart. You can't count on your grandparents to take care of the kids next door anymore. They're on the other side of the country. There's also been a huge cultural shift. Families used to be big, and it was a source of pride. These days, it's becoming very rare. More women are getting an education, which is fantastic, but family structure has not adjusted to accommodate professionals with kids. European governments have used various tools to support families: child benefits, parental leave, and subsidized childcare. These measures are helpful, but none of them reversed the trend. Why is it so? The issue's not purely financial. You can pay money to people, but if it's not possible to afford a roof over their heads, if working conditions are demanding, and if society and culture shifted towards people not having children, it won't work. And the consequences, well, they're stark.
Unemployment in the EU is going down for everyone except young people.
There are fewer young people entering the workforce each year. This leads to a productivity gap, simply not enough people to support the jobs. In 2050, 22 of 27 countries within the EU are projected to see a decline in their working-aged population. When you have fewer people working, a stagnant economy is what you'll have. Inventions and advancements are also impaired, as you require the bright, eager minds of the youth. The competition for human resources is growing as each nation is competing against each other. The pension system is where the mathematics become terrifying. Today, there are almost 3 working individuals contributing to support each pensioner across the entire EU. In the next 20 years, it's expected to decrease to merely 2 individuals per pensioner. Consider this for a moment. One will soon have to support not only his or her pension, but also healthcare, and every other individual has to support another person. Countries such as Italy, France, and Germany are facing a dire pension crisis. Government pension expenditure is 11.4% of the total GDP, and it's set to increase to 12.1% by 2045. The politics behind it? Cutting benefits spells political death, and sustaining benefits spells economic death. An aging population not only costs more, it costs exponentially more. People aged 80 plus require significantly more resources than people of working age. Spending on healthcare in the EU is forecast to grow from 6.9% of GDP in 2022 to 7.3% by 2070. In addition, healthcare professionals are desperately short. Who's supposed to take care of so many older Europeans when so few members of their population are entering healthcare and medical-related fields? A smaller population also translates to fewer people to recruit and train, which is important when it comes to securing Europe's defense. In terms of economy, Europe's contribution to the global GDP is also decreasing due to the growing youthful and dynamic areas. Countries such as southern and eastern members of the EU will also experience accelerated aging and depletion of working-age citizens, which will affect their competitive strength. Other areas with growing and youthful population are Africa, South Asia, and parts of the Middle East. And the fix for all of this? Well, the fix caused even more issues.
Images like these are no longer rare. They're a reminder of a new record. Saturday saw the highest number of small boat arrivals in a single day. More than 1,100 people came ashore in 24 hours.
The chief mechanism for compensating Europe's demographic decline has been immigration. In 2022, 5.1 million foreigners moved to the EU from countries outside the Union. That is important, but not remotely enough to compensate for births. Here's the basic dilemma. To keep the present population without migrant inflows, the EU could expect to lose 9% of its population by 2050, 23% by 2075, and 34% by 2100. Following are the immigration rates which could offset such losses and are unprecedented. The problems associated with integration add to the issue. The rate of employment oscillates between extremely high and low, ranging between immigrant groups. In fact, second-generation immigrants also tend to inherit the low fertility rate of their adopted countries, so immigration is only a temporary solution.
Italy's national birth rate has fallen to its lowest level on record. New figures reveal 400,000 births were recorded last year, which has attributed to an overall decline in population numbers. The ailing numbers have been declared a national emergency, prompting reassurance from the Prime Minister to try to boost the population in coming years.
Italy's birth rate reached a new record low of 1.18 in 2024. A staggering 24.3% of Italy's population is over 65. The southern part of Italy and rural areas are facing disaster. In some villages, there are more than enough coffins to go around. The total population of Italy has dropped below 60 million and is still shrinking. Spain also has problems identical to Italy. Youth unemployment is high, which causes enough problems so that the average Spanish youth postpones having children or, more cynical, avoids having kids altogether. Variations between areas are extreme, with Madrid having active life and the rest of Spain becoming a ghost land. Germany's birth rate's fallen to 1.35 in 2024, which is the lowest rate since 1994. Although immigration has covered up the trend, the former East Germany is facing a grave problem of depopulation. Without immigration, Germany is already facing sharp decline. Although it has immigration, more people died than were born last year. In Latvia and Lithuania, every region is expected to have fewer people by 2050 than in 2019, most by at least 20%. Bulgaria, Romania, Croatia, and the Baltic countries are facing a dual crisis of very low birth rates and huge emigration to Western Europe. Certain areas are threatened with demographic extinction or demographic deserts. Countries are trying various things, such as cash benefits, and tax breaks. Hungarian policy is very expansionary. The Nordic countries are very supportive. Still, the effects are, at best, mixed. The Scandinavian model is the most promising regarding access to high-quality care, parental leave benefits shared by both parents, and work flexibility. These are helpful measures, but when implemented, countries are faced with low fertility. The whole society approach acknowledges the realization that to support family more than what the government can deliver is also essential, and changing business culture is also important. In some countries, subsidized housing is provided to young families, rent control, and first home buyer schemes. Housing is a basic need because you have to have a place before you can raise children. Housing crises are still evident, though, in the biggest European capitals, and it's due to the fact, first and foremost, that the solution to housing needs more housing, and the future is looking grim. The prospects are alarming. The projected population of the EU is forecast to peak at 453.3 million people in 2026, before declining to 447.9 million people by 2050, losing millions. However, raw population data is not the whole story. The median age will pass the 50-year mark by 2100, and older people will comprise a third of the population. Many rural areas will become so-called demographic deserts, which boasts more empty homes than people. There will also be a huge shift in economic power. The influence of Europe's economy will decline, and new and growing areas such as sub-Saharan Africa, South Asia, and Southeast Asia will emerge. The challenge is not only demographic, but also about relevance. Will Europe, with a declining and aging population, be able to support its prosperity and influence in the world? This crisis isn't inevitable, but the response has been too slow and too limited. Demography shapes everything: economy, politics, culture, power. Every year of inaction makes the problem harder to solve. The next decade is critical. Europe's demographic trajectory isn't set in stone, but the window for meaningful action is rapidly closing. And here's the thing: Europe isn't alone in the crisis. East Asia faces even worse trends. The global demographic transformation is just beginning.